Hello, how are you? Thank you to my friends at AWS, Ricardo, Rodrigo, and the rest of the team for inviting us today to share some of the experiences that we have had in the past years, which has been quite an amazing ride. And just to give a little bit more of context, well, my name is Marco, and I am the managing director for Cinépolis KLIC. So some of you might hear or are familiar with the name Cinépolis, with the brand Cinépolis. But I'm sure that 99% of you haven't heard about Cinépolis KLIC. So let's dive in first with Cinépolis. So as Ricardo mentioned before, Cinépolis is a movie theater company, right? So as any movie theater company in the world, there's basically three businesses that you're trying to address. Everything starts with having good content, right? That's the starting point for making a huge business. And we have the honor to continue to be the first place where you can watch those new titles, right? And because of this relevancy that the content that we have is able to provide to customers, we attract a lot of people. And as you might imagine, selling popcorns and Cokes, well, there's a little bit of margin in there, right? So that's a very good business for us, the concession sales. And finally, because you have all of those eyeballs sitting there waiting for the projection to start, obviously that's a very good place to sell ads. So that's pretty much the three main businesses that we have. Now, Cinépolis is almost 50 years old. It's a private company, a family company, and it's not even located in Mexico City. It is located in another state called Michoacán, in a little city called Morelia, which is like 3 hours away from Mexico City. And from there, we manage the entire operation around the world. We do have certain locations, certain offices across the world, but the magic really happens in Morelia, Mexico, right? So by now we have presence in 17 countries, in places as exotic as Indonesia, India. This year we are opening in Saudi Arabia, Qatar. We have some cinemas actually very close from here in Miami. So this has been very interesting because this started something very small that continued to grow over time. And that's because even that, it's very common for you to listen to the media and analysts and everyone think that cinema is dying, right? Because, come on, you have platforms, you have DVDs, at some point you have VHS. There's always a threat to the business. But for some reason, this business is not decreasing, right? In Mexico, actually for us, this has been the best time for making a business. We are so successful right now, and that's pretty much because we are very good in terms of efficiency of what we do. So just to give you some numbers, just last year we have more than 350 million patrons going to our cinemas. 200 of that were in Mexico and the rest of the world, right? So we are the third place in terms of screens around the world. We are the second one in terms of tickets being sold, but we are the first one in terms of occupancy rates. So we have not that many screens as the top two, but we are the ones that actually make sure that those seats, there's somebody sitting in there, right? So that's where we are trying to focus all the time, and that's where we are very good at. Now, you may say, well, if you are being so successful in a cinema business, why are you trying to do other things, right? Why don't you focus on this and get all the investment that you're already making year after year and just throw everything at what you have? And yes, we did that for 40 years, probably, right? But now things are changing, right? We realize that the entire media, the entire industry, the film industry is changing, and it's changing a lot. And if we don't adapt ourselves to these new models, then we might be in danger, right? Now, just bear in mind that, as I mentioned before, 2019 has been the most successful year for our company. Even that at this time you have huge platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, you name it, right? Yeah, that's good direction. So we decided to start a startup because that's what it is. Cinépolis KLIC is a startup within a big company. We are 20 people, and that includes IT, marketing, operation, legal, managing, whatever. We are 20, and that's it. So we decided to put some money in there and start playing around, doing some experiments, trying to understand if we could build something for the audience in Mexico that could actually make sense, right? So Cinépolis KLIC, basically, it's a pay-per-view platform, right? For us, there is no subscription fees, no monthly charges. You don't have to cancel anything at all. If you watch something, you pay for that. If you don't watch anything, you don't have to pay anything at all. Registration, obviously, is free, right? But the main target here is not to have millions of assets in our library. Actually, the main catch is that we focus particularly on new films, right? The films that have just been out of the exhibition window in our cinemas and are coming to the digital world. That's our top priority. So we have been working with this around for quite some time. And then we realized that this was actually a very good business because, people are looking for the relevant content. And we define relevant not in terms of the price, in terms of the exclusivity, in terms of the critics or whatever, no. For us, relevance is more related to what people are talking about right now, what people are looking to watch at this time. If this Sunday there is a soccer match in Mexico City against, two of the most popular teams, that's something that we want. If 2 months ago, Avengers Endgame, released on theaters and right now it's coming to the digital, everyone is going to talk about that, right? There is a new chapter for Game of Thrones on HBO. People are looking for that. Well, we might try to have it as well. So that's our definition of relevant. So that means that we have grown and evolved our business not only to have films, but also to have TV series, to have live events, to have linear channels, to make amazing deals with networks such as HBO and Fox Sports. So just to give you a sense of how are we doing right now. By now we have more than 3.5 million registered users, right? Who have at least 11 million of linked devices, right? We have invested over the years a lot in terms of technology. By now we have presence in more than 500 models. And we basically partner with all the different brands across the electronics industry, gaming industry, set-top boxes, mobile application, you name it, right? Now, this is, just to have the presence in here, it's quite a challenge because, if you start a business today, an OTT business, it's very simple to jump into the new platforms, the new LG devices, the new Samsung devices. That's a piece of cake, actually. The real stuff is supporting models from 2012. Because that's basically the first generation of smart TV devices, at least in Mexico, right? So, Dash didn't exist at that time. It was a work in progress. So there's a lot of things that no matter how you evolve, obviously in Mexico, we are a little bit behind in terms of adoption of technology. So people will have old devices as well. So we have to be able not only to improve the experience for the new devices, but to be able to support the old devices. And that's the main challenge in here. So this is a landscape of what we see, of what we are hoping to see in Mexico. Here are some names of the different platforms that operate in Mexico. Some of them are still a work in progress, right? Disney Plus, for instance, is not in Mexico yet, or Peacock, I mean, it's not even exist yet, but we know it's coming, right? So we try to continue to map everything that, at the end of the day, is competing against time, against money, and against, just watching something at home. So we try to make an eye on that. And we see that, everyone is going after the subscription market. That makes sense. That's what everyone is doing. But that requires a lot of resources, a lot of people. You have to have originals. You have to have exclusivity deals. Basically, you have to have deep pockets, right? However, in a transactional environment, there's something that in Mexico, nobody is taking care of that. And that's people used to go to the rental store, reserve some time on Friday afternoon, get some food, get some drinks, bring the family together, and watch the latest title. That's something that's our goal. We want to replace that experience. Now, it doesn't matter if, it doesn't have to be films. It has to be something relevant. That's the name of the game. So we are trying to navigate across this ecosystem, this very crowded ecosystem, because we feel that subscription services are going to compete each against each other, right? And they're going to kill themselves. And probably there's going to, at the end of the day, there's going to be 4 or 5, no more, maybe, that will have global domination. But we see that there is a huge opportunity for bundling, because right now the conversation is that, you don't have, if you want to watch this channel, then unbundle your cable and be a cord cutter and just go directly to HBO and pay for that. Yeah, that's great. But at the end of the day, you're not going to have 30 platforms, right? Because it's going to be expensive. There's going to be a lot of passwords to remember, devices to be linked. People are going to share those credentials, so it's going to be a nightmare. What we're trying to do is to concentrate in just one place all the content that you might are looking for at that particular time. It doesn't matter if it is a VOD. It doesn't matter if it's a live event, if it's a pay TV channel, a linear channel, whatever. That's what we are looking for. So if you think that what I just said is not good enough or a good value proposition, let me tell you a bit more of what makes us different. First of all, we have a very good loyalty program in our cinemas. It's called Club Cinepolis. And I will talk a little bit more about this in the next slide. We have a prepaid wallet. In Mexico, it's very difficult for people to have a credit card, a debit card, and if they have it, they are not that used to put it online and see what happens, right? So we have a lot of options for people to go to any retail store of one of our cinemas and get some cards, right? And reload that money into the platform. But also we have the cinema cross-selling option, right? And this is super important because chances are that even that you haven't been using KLIC never in your life, you have never used KLIC never in your life, you are a customer of us in our cinemas, right? We have around 65, 70% of market share in Mexico for cinemas. So we know who you are. We know what you watch. Sometimes we kind of figure out where do you live in terms of how close you are to the cinemas, if you go to other cinemas or whatever, right? So we know a lot about you. So we are able to offer you special experiences, personalized experiences, personalized communications, right? So we even have the option, if you are going to, let's say that, I don't know, the new Fast and Furious movie is coming out soon, right? So imagine that you are buying tickets for that in our pre-sale, right? We know that you are going, so we're going to send you an email saying, prepare for this, watch all of these movies, we have it for you. And because you are a new customer, we'll give it the first one for free, right? So that's a very good deal for you. Now, I said that the loyalty club was very important. And actually it is for us because this is the mechanism that allows us to connect the offline and the online worlds. Because every time you go to the cinema and you are part of our club, which by the way, it's a huge club, talking about millions, you present your car, right? So we know exactly who you are. We know exactly what are you buying, and we know exactly what you like. So we were thinking, how can we take advantage of this? How can we, from a business point of view, having a lot of data, that's great. That's great. We can do a lot of things in order to, target the communication. But from the consumer point of view, what can we do in order for you to take value out of this equation? So this is basically our own flywheel, right? So patrons go to the cinema. They want to watch a movie. They go to Cinepolis because the best experience. And because they present their car, they would earn some points, right? We normally give them back around 10%, 5 to 10% of whatever they are purchasing. We are giving it back in points. We are giving away money. And you could take that money and come again to the cinema or go to the concession stand and buy popcorns or whatever. But what we have found is that many people wanted to take those loyalty points and come to the platform in order for them to spend that money, right? So we enable that. So the money that we are giving these users, they are coming to KLIC, they are giving it, they're making a trial, right? Testing it, seeing if everything works with money that we give them away for free, by the way. And because the experience is so good, they keep coming back. And the next time they come back is because the experience was great and they have to make a choice, either going back to the cinemas and earn some points again, or they start paying with cash. Just to give you an idea, around 2 of every 4 transactions is paid with loyalty points. So this is huge. Now, no, not everything has been quite an amazing story. As I mentioned before, we continue to be a startup, and we have taken lots of bad decisions along the line, the years, sorry. But we have learned from that. At the beginning, 2014, we were some kind of pioneering the concept of having a transactional business living side by side with a subscription business. And it was a complete disaster, right? Because people, they were subscribers and they were paying monthly fees. But then, you have these channels, all of the content that you have available for subscription users, but also you presented the new titles, right? And people were saying like, I want to watch this new title. Oh, I have to pay 50 pesos. Well, then why should I continue to pay the subscription? The good stuff has an extra cost. And with my subscription, I can only see the old stuff. So in our idea, coming from a 4-year-old company that basically we were operators in the exhibition industry, we thought that it was super clever to have in one place everything in different business models. And that was a disaster. We almost had to close the company. So the next year, we decided to shut it down. Shut it down, the subscription business, and just focus on the transactional one. But that was a key magical moment from the business point of view. However, the real transformation began when exactly at that year, we decided to move everything that we have full into AWS. We used to have a platform. We had 1, 2, or even 3 platforms from different companies, but we didn't have our own OTT technology, let's say that. We were taking end-to-end solutions. And this was good for a starting point because we didn't know anything about this industry, so we had to learn, right? So we learned the hard way. But we saw that if we wanted to make a difference, we wanted to be able to control our destiny, to know exactly who to work with, where to invest our money, what should we improve for future iterations. So that's when we decided to go full AWS. Now, obviously, at this time, we didn't have anyone that understand AWS, right? So everyone was thinking about, instead of hosting a server here at the data center, I would just send it somebody place different, which obviously is not the case. So this was very good because it allowed us to do more things, to experiment rapidly, to try new things that at the time seemed impossible to us. So having a complete set of mind into VOD, video on demand business, we saw an opportunity to start doing live events. Now, because we already have a couple of years of experience in VOD, we say, oh man, we are the experts of this. We are able to move and do some live events. Obviously, we learned the hard way again. We had some events that were not that great, but we are proud of that because it helped us to learn. It helped us to understand and specifically to know what we don't know, which is crucial for us. So we started a huge project doing a redesign of the entire ecosystem, building something that on day one was built for films, but over the time was evolving, right? So we created a platform controlled 100% by us that was powered by AWS different services along the way, but that we have total control of that. So the next year, 2017, we launched a new business model, and that was EST, buying, basically. But we also, because we had very good experiences with the live events that we did the previous year, we were able to secure some rights for the baseball leagues in Mexico. In Mexico, there are two big baseball leagues, the LMB and LMP. So we were able to secure some deals with them. But we also start migrating our infrastructure that it was, and I'll show you a picture of what it looked like before, to a serverless experience. Because, as I mentioned, we are very few. So we don't have the capabilities to have dedicated resources to, managing anything. So that was one of the main reasons. 2018, we say, okay, the live event in terms of, it was a soccer match, the ones that we started to do, that we decided to produce concerts, right? So we signed a deal with a top talent managing agency in Mexico. And we say, if you are going to make a concert in a couple of months and all your seats are being sold out by now, why don't we, make a joint venture there and we will broadcast this, we will make it a pay-per-view, and we will make sure that this event is not available for people that live in the same city where the actual concert takes place. So imagine this, you are going to attract customers that are from outside the city that it doesn't matter if they wanted to attend the concert. There is no tickets left. There's no way for you to go there. So we're going to attract new customers for you. You're going to get a sense of what your artists are capable of attracting. And then you can replicate this and do other concerts in other parts of Mexico. So we did that, and it was a complete success. And we actually were, completely involved from the production point of view all the way onto the distribution to our final users. And that was a very good experience. And by that time, everything was up and running, fully operational at AWS. So that's really when we started to explore new services, trying to go back a couple of steps and see if what we did a couple of years ago was a good idea or not, and if we needed to reinvent something, right? And just last year, we signed a new business model, which is the add-on model, right? So you have it here in the US with Prime Video, channels. So we have that as well. We signed a deal with HBO, so we had Game of Thrones in real time in our platform at the same time that was broadcasting in television. But also, we signed a new deal with Fox Sports. So now we have linear channels as well, right? So we managed to move from an SVOD platform to a TVOD platform to a live event platform, and now we are also including linear channels, right? So this has been really, really an adventure. And how do you represent this, learning in terms of numbers? Well, the bars are our users, the growth of our users, and the line is our revenue, right? So we have managed to grow this business incredible. We grow triple digit every single year, right? And we have been having this experience for the last 6 years. So it's not that we are super bright or whatever, because obviously we are super dumb, right? But we manage to learn along the way, to try new things, to experiment, to explore new business deals. And we have the great opportunity that Cinépolis is investing in us so that we are able to do things, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, then do some other things and continue to look for a model that what people actually want. So it's not that we created a platform because we saw that everything is starting to crash in our cinema business. No, it's not like that. We created a platform because we know that people are looking for something in particular, right? We just don't know exactly what it is, but we have to find it out along the way. And this is what we have been doing. Now, this is just for the technical guys. I mean, this was probably 5 years ago when we were still handling, receiving files from the different content owners and processing that using some EC2 instances and storing that into an S3 bucket and we have different buckets for everyone, and managing that was very complicated. And even that we didn't have an encoder on site, we were customers from Elemental and we used Elemental in the cloud, but still we have different jobs, everything applying the same recipe for everything, so we process exactly the same, all different types of contents. It doesn't matter if it was an action, if it was an animation movie or whatever, it was exactly the same. And because we have different devices that we need to support, we created physical files for that and different versions of that, different, AVR renditions, and it was, this was working, but it was completely inefficient for us. So this is where we are right now. And this is, when we heard about the media services that were being launched, I guess a couple of years maybe, we decided to jump on this as early as possible, because who doesn't love the idea of a managed service where you don't have to manage anything at all. You don't have to worry about infrastructure. You don't have to worry about patches and operating systems and access control and that sort of stuff. So we decided to create a flow that would allow us to not only be more efficient, but to make this as automatically as possible. So right now the flow is like this. The content owner have credentials. They just drop their content into one of our buckets, right, which has a life cycle policy, so that after a certain time it will move to a different storage layer, which is Glacier, and that is for low-cost purposes. And that will trigger a job at Media Convert. But before triggering that, we will analyze the content that we just received. We will try to figure out exactly what are the specifications for this file and create on the fly a recipe for applying the appropriate parameters for that transcoding process, right? And after that, media package, we create there the different versions that we need, because we need, smooth streaming, because we have all devices, HLS, Dash, and we are trying now with CMAF. So we have to have everything in one place. Also, with DRM, obviously, and you have to have Fair Play, and you have to have Play Ready, Wideband, all the big stuff. So everything is handled in there. But we also focus a lot of our efforts into the distribution part. So right now we are working with Amazon CloudFront and also with CenturyLink. And what we have is that all of our players, they talk to this Conviva platform, where basically we do two things with them. We, in real time, analyze what is the best path for a user that is trying to watch a content. So that's how we decided if you have to go to Amazon or if you have to go to CenturyLink, depending on the real network conditions. And the other thing is that basically we use the Pulse platform for Conviva, which is the telemetry and analytics. So we know exactly what is the experience from our customers, what is the bit rate that they are watching, what is the rebuffering time, the video startup time, the exit before video. We know everything, where are they located, what is the IP, what is the network, if they are connected through Wi-Fi, through cellular, whatever, right? So we take all of this knowledge in order to improve our algorithm in Media Converts, right? Now, just drilling down a little bit in terms of our live experiences. You know, as I mentioned before, moving from VOD to live is very difficult, especially because there is one thing that you don't know it until you face it, which is concurrency, right? So on VOD, we were used to having, you know, Sunday nights, prime time, and you start seeing like the growth, you know, very steady, continue to grow, but very steady. While in live, you know, everyone tries to connect at the same time, at the very last moment. And for us, it's even harder because, you know, if this was a subscription model, you kind of have like a baseline, right? You know how many people are paying for the service, and that kind of gives you a ballpark of how many people will connect at that time, right? In a transactional business, this was completely different because 50% of our users were new users every time we did a live event, right? So there was a lot of people coming, and because we had content that it was very attractive to different parts, different audiences, different people, it was a behavior that we were expecting, right? Now, obviously, it's not the same playing against a not so popular team against the super popular team. So that gives you some insight into what to expect. But the real thing is that you don't know until this is coming, right? So this is from still 3-4 years ago. At that time, we were really focusing on, you know, how can we be sure that we are able to handle this kind of concurrency? So we invested a lot of compute, right? And we tried to move to a serverless experience with AP Gateway and Lambda functions, right? And we focus also in data because, you know, you have to do authentication, billing, and this kind of stuff. So you're still going to need some kind of repository where to store things, right? So we created lots of replicas and, you know, active, and you name it, right? But we also focus on the video delivery, right? So this was working, you know, and this was kind of a diagram of some day that we have 3 different events happening at the same time. So even that this was working, it was not very efficient in terms of managing that, right? Because you have instances and you have to create things like origin cache and be sure to warm up things before the actual kickoff time. So this was very, very complicated for us, right? We even had to partner with another platform in order to make sure that if things were totally wrong, we were still able to deliver some video, right? So we created lots of scenarios, lots of plans, backup plans, recovery plans, everything, right? But at the end of the day, the chances, the problem with live is that you only have one chance to make things right? And if at that time you do not deliver what our customers are expecting, then you just not only you lost one customer, you will lots of customers because they will continue to talk to other guys and say, you know, these guys were super dumb, the experience was terrible, don't spend your money with them, right? So we have to be very careful for that. So this is the architecture that we are currently using. We are still broadcast some soccer matches, right? We still do some concerts. So what we did is that we put some elementals encoders right at the venue, right? And we only ask for some internet redundancy in there, right? And after that, so we send everything to the cloud. The only thing that we do is that we take that live feed from the, you know, the production site and set everything to the cloud where we have, you know, Media Connect so that We use protocols such as 6C in order to, recovery packages and this kind of stuff, right? We process everything on Media Live, and we create several renditions depending on the different devices that we support, right? So we create a special rendition for iOS, sometimes for Android. If there is a new codec that we want to try, we will test it in there, and we created a separate flow, and we will assign these to certain devices just to make sure that if things are working properly or not. So we kind of do a lot of live testing, right? We still have a huge base of things that we know that it will work, right? So as with VOD, we still have a couple of CDNs, and sometimes we even have 3 or 4, depending on how big the event is going to be, right? And we still use Conviva for routing in real time and for telemetry and analytics. And this is not so different from our pay TV channels, right? Because I mentioned you, just last year we added some linear channels to the platform. So it's basically the same. The only difference is that because obviously we are so small, we do not have a teleport or head-end, so this kind of facilities. So we partner with another good friends, and they help us to acquire the content from satellite and push it to our AWS infrastructure, right? And from there, it's exactly the same, So I guess that for us, AWS has been not only a tool that we are able to use for whatever workflows we are trying to achieve, but for us, really, they gave us the opportunity to compete against others. Because just think this for a minute. If you're going after cable operators, after broadcasters or whatever, they have all the infrastructure, they have all the resources, they have everything. And we, being a small startup with 20 guys, we don't have all the different tools that they have, but we have AWS in our side. And because all of them are trying to move to the cloud, which for them is super complicated because they have legacy systems, they have old processes, they have people from very old school that don't understand the cloud and the different flexibility that you get from the cloud, we are able to take advantage of that. So without having anything, owning a single server, encoders, or even teleport, we are able to do exactly the same like they do, but even better. So just a couple of weeks ago, we had the opportunity to stream the Super Bowl, right? So if you connected to KLIC and watch the Super Bowl, you will watch it in 60 frames per second, in a high bit rate, in any of the devices that you have. While if you watch it on linear TV, the experience obviously was not that great. So, I guess at the end of the day, this is not a sales presentation, and I'm not saying that AWS, is you have to be with them no matter what. No, obviously there are things that you need to consider. There are things that probably at some point will fail, but you have to be able to consider all of this to design everything for failure, because that's the real nature of the cloud. Everything will fail all the time. That's their magic phrase. But if you are able to take advantage of this and even move to managed services like we have done in just last year, then chances are you're going to be super successful, but also very flexible.